Well, the Giants found yet another creative way to lose. Let's recap. Welcome back to the Empire State Sports Report. I'm your host, Adrianna, also known as New York Giants Fangirl on social. Today's podcast is brought to you by Believe Network and FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is the #1 betting app, the place to make all of your sports bets. Obviously, we know the NFL season is in full swing. FanDuel has you covered with the best odds. They have promos, boosts, you name it. FanDuel has it. Download the app today and make sure to always bet responsibly. Okay, I want to start with one thing first, and then we are going to air out all the ugliness, and then we're going to end on the positives because people were telling me last night to look at the positives, and I really just wanted to tell them to piss off, but I'm still very upset today. But there are good things that came out of this game. No one cares because we lost, myself included, but I think there are some good things that we can highlight. So the first thing I want to say is I was lucky to be in Vermont this past weekend for my brother-in-law's wedding. So I missed a lot of the chaos that was on Twitter. But I want you to listen to me, and I want you to listen to me very clearly. If you are a Giants fan who spent your weekend talking shit about the late Demaryius Thomas, who the Broncos were honoring at that game on Sunday, you are a disgusting piece of shit who does not belong in this fan base. You do not belong on the internet, and you should not have access to free because that is despicable, unacceptable. And the fact that people did that is atrocious. And if it's any one of you who follow me on social media, get the fuck out of here right now because I don't ever want to be associated with you. That's disgusting behavior. We can talk shit all we want. I'm the queen of it. Welcome. If you haven't realized that already, we're allowed to talk shit, okay? But talking poorly about someone who died tragically that the other team is honoring this weekend is despicable. That's not talking shit. That's being a raging asshole. Okay? Two very different things. What Nick Bonito and what Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burt, like what they were doing was friendly talking shit. Okay? That's allowed. Taking it to that level is disgusting. I don't ever want to see it again. And like I said, I'm lucky I didn't even get to see. I saw one screenshot that a Broncos fan sent to me, and I apologize to them on behalf of all Giants fans because that's despicable and unacceptable. Just like this loss. So let's move on. Shane Bowen. You know how I talk week in and week out about how Dable never learns from his mistakes? And I think I said this on the preview pod. Not only does he not learn from his mistakes, Shane Bowen is willing to repeat them over and over again. So we can have deja vu. And it's like, just replace the Broncos jerseys with Cowboys jerseys. And it's the exact same thing that happened a mere 5 weeks ago. I know that Brian Dable says that you have to put the past behind you and every week is a new week. That's not what he's referring to. He's not referring to you to have amnesia of what went wrong in previous losses. When you put up 37 or 32 points, you win the goddamn game. When you are up by 18 points with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you win that game. Just like 1,602 other NFL teams have done. That's right. Over 1,600 other NFL teams who have been up by 18 points with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter win that football game. But not us, not the New York Football Giants, because we got to come up with a new, creative, exciting way to ruin everyone's lives and lose the game. That was the most atrocious collapse I've ever seen. I am 35 years old. I have been watching this Giants team for a long time. And I have DMs from people saying, I've been around longer than you and I've seen some pretty bad games. This is a top 3. That was pretty much unlike anything I've ever witnessed, like I said, in my life. And I said this while I was live streaming the game. When it was going into the fourth quarter, and the Giants were driving towards the end zone, I said, they have to score here because I don't care that we're up by 19. It's not a big enough lead. They could be up by 30 points. And I still wouldn't think it was a big enough lead. I still, during that Eagles game last week, was stressed because I have seen one too many Giants games in my life. And I know how they all end. And they all end with some fucking insane way for them to go ahead and lose the game like what happened yesterday. And we're going to talk about Shane Bowen because he's obviously a big part of it. But it's everyone's fault. And I say that because Joe Shane and Brian Daboll decided to keep Graham Gano, a 36-year-old injury-prone kicker. They decided to keep him this year. They decided to draft a cornerback in the 7th round, and then they decided who's no longer on the team. So instead of using that pick for a kicker, instead of keeping Corey Black on this team and maybe seeing what he's capable of, instead of bringing in another kicker during the summer, they go ahead and decide to stick with Graham Gano, 36 or 30, whatever he is at this point, doesn't matter. He's in his late 30s, coming off an injury and has not played an entire season in 2 years because of injuries. So they decide we're going to stick with Graham Gano. And then Graham Gano gets injured and you don't have another kicker. Your only kicker is an international exemption who played at Rutgers, who lost the starting job at Rutgers. And then, okay, you have problems with him. Then you sign Younghoe Koo, who's missed, what was it? 3? Hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. Koo has missed 3-point attempts in 4 years. And Jude has missed 3 in 2 games. So they bring in Koo, and then this is what we hear from the coaches, is that they're having a kicking battle, okay, during the week. And now for multiple weeks in a row, Jude has beat out Koo. The same Jude who has now 3 missed point attempts in 2 games, the same Jude who they will not allow to kick past a 31-yard field goal. That's the only attempt he's made so far this season. So that's the decision that the front office is making. This is what they feel comfortable with after we already had kicker problems for the last 2 years because Graham Gano is injured. And when you have a team who last year was averaging 10 points a game, a kicker is fucking important. Why have we not learned this lesson? Why? Why does no one learn from their goddamn mistakes in a job where your only job is to be productive and win games? And not only can you not win football games, you can't do anything right. Everything goes wrong because you don't know how to do anything right. You don't know how to fix your mistakes. You don't know how to keep making the same, or you do know how to keep making the same mistake over and over again. It is insanity what this team is doing. Brian Daboll decides to bring back Shane Bowen after having the world's worst season, after they said that we brought him in to stop the run, after John fucking Mara, the owner of this goddamn team, says to the media, I'm sick and tired of watching opposing offenses run up and down our fields week in and week out. But we're going to bring back Shane Bowen because of optics, because it looks bad that Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale are grown men who act like goddamn children and cannot put their fucking egos aside to keep a job together. So we get stuck with Shane Bowen for year 2. And women are emotional. Shut the fuck up. It is ridiculous what is going on here. And then Daboll, again, same mistakes again. Clock management issues, the run, pass. And I actually think that Mike Kafka has done a good job of play calling lately. But the same things they're doing over and over again. Daboll not calling the timeout, saving the timeout for what? For what? You don't even know when to use them correctly. Okay, save it. when Brian Burns is not getting on the field in time. Okay. Could have saved yourself a penalty at the end of the game when every goddamn yard is important. But no, we're gonna save it is what we're gonna do. And okay, what next? So the front office and all of their decisions have led us here. But now I want to get into Shane Bowen, because I don't know if you guys saw this clip of Brian Burns after the game. I'm going to show it because there's two things there's a lot that I want to talk about with Shane Bowen. And the first thing is that this is now the second time in a couple weeks where your coach, who I hate having to defend Dable because I don't think he's a good head coach. And Dable is part of the problem. When you are talking about game planning and you are deciding this is the way you're going to do it, and you go 3 goddamn quarters of a good defensive plan for once in your life of it actually working, and then you lose Paulson Adebo and put in Tay Banks, and then everything goes to shit because you decide I'm going to change this game because Tay Banks is in there. Okay, Shane Bowen. Brian Dable is screaming at you on the sidelines. For once, I'm on your side here, Dabes. You should have been screaming at him. Thank you. Now, you've got the players who had to sit down the defensive coordinator and say to him, we are fucking good at edge rushing. We are good at getting after the quarterback. That is our job. That is what we excel at. Let us do it. So then he does it against the Eagles. And what happens? Oh my God, they beat the Eagles. And not only did they beat them, they punched them in the mouth for 60 straight minutes. They did it, and they won the goddamn game. So instead of doing it again, Shane Bowen, in the fourth quarter, when you have to close out a game, when on offense, 19 points we know is not enough. It's not enough to hold a lead. Then you decide I'm going to take my foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. Why do we have to play not to lose? What is the problem with beating the shit out of your goddamn opponents? Every other team doesn't have a problem with it. Dan Campbell does not have a problem with running up the score and scoring 50 points in a game. Why do we have a problem with that when we have gone years without being able to score a goddamn touchdown? And now we can not only score one, we can score multiple touchdowns in one game. We can score more touchdowns on the Broncos than any other goddamn offense has done this entire season. The Broncos have the top 2 defense in the NFL, and our Giants offense with a rookie fucking quarterback and no Malik Neighbors and no starting center and no offensive line coach went out there and put up 5 touchdowns. I hate this fucking team. I am so angry that I literally want to cry. Do you do that? That is despicable work. Absolutely despicable and horrifying. And this is why Brian Burns is acting like this after the game, okay? I'm so angry. Hold on, let me get this bigger. So I think he said that they were up by 17 and you're dropping 8 into coverage. That stupid effing shit. So mind you, this guy is now leading the NFL in sacks over Nick Bonito, who had the nerve to talk shit all week, and Andrew Thomas whooped his goddamn ass this weekend. And I can't even be excited about it because we lost this game in a colossal way. But he's not it, okay? Brian Burns very visibly upset, as he should be. And I give him so much credit because after the game, when he spoke to the media, this is what he said, quote, I know Dabes is going to take the blame and Dabes is gonna his fault this and his fault that. At the end of the day, we've got to make that play. They were in a position where they were at the disadvantage. It's our fault. And he went on to say that they had the advantage because they were up by 19 points going into the fourth quarter, that it was their fault why they lost. And he's not wrong, but your coach is supposed to put you in a position to succeed. So then you've got, I'm going to read this to you from Dan Duggan. And I literally, I haven't gone back and watched the film yet. I am horrified at what I'm going to see in the fourth quarter, but I just want everyone to think about this. So this is the play that Burns is referring to when he's saying that they rushed 3 and dropped 8 into coverage. Okay, think about this. On the 29-yard completion on the first play of Denver's final drive, the Giants had a personnel grouping that surely has never been on the field together for a snap due to injuries in the secondary. Brian Burns, Roy Robertson Harris, and Kayvon Thibodeau were the 3 rushers with Bobby O in the underneath zone. There were 7 DBs on the field. Banks, Flott, Phillips, Nick Jones, Tyler Nubin, Dane Belton, and safety Bo Braid. Dable said the play call was to play with man with 2 safeties as robbers, which were Belton and Nubin. Braid was the deep safety. Phillips was in coverage on Marvin Mims, but just didn't react as the ball approached, and none of the safeties were in a position to make a play. Burns was asked if the defense was aggressive enough in that spot. I don't know about all that. We were rushing 3. We dropped 8. Dexter Lawrence said it wasn't his call not to be on the field for that play. Lawrence came in for the final 2 plays. This is what I mean when I say putting your players in a position to succeed. And you have to trust your players. And when your players come to you like Dexter Lawrence and like Brian Burns, and they sit down with you and say, trust us, and they back it up with what they do on the field, you need to trust them. Why the fuck do you have Roy Robertson Harris on the field instead of Dexter Lawrence? Where is Abdul Carter? Why are you not rushing the 4 of them to start? Just to start. Bo Nix looked like ass for the first 3 quarters yesterday. He was not even accurate on most of his deep balls. But now, in the end of the fourth quarter, he's going to be accurate and make that throw? For fuck's sake, what is wrong with you? It is just absolutely asinine. Asinine. The decisions that this coaching staff makes week in and week out. And now it's the Cowboys game all over again. And you could pinpoint 2 losses now, one against a goddamn division rival who we'd be right neck and neck with in the division if you don't make that play call, Shane Bowen. And then you have the nerve to say to the media afterwards, I regret making that play call. No, you don't, because you did it again. If he makes it through this week, I will be surprised. So I think what they're going to do is Dable usually speaks to the media on Monday. I actually think that he speaks a little bit earlier at this point. So it's interesting, and I could be wrong on this. Maybe it's because they got in late because it was a 4:25 game on the West Coast. That could all be part of it. So don't 100% quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that Dable speaks to the media earlier on Monday mornings, and he does it on purpose because he doesn't want to have to answer questions about injuries, because a lot of the players don't get MRIs and tests done until the afternoon on Mondays. So I am wondering if it's a similar situation with a potential firing. Is they want Dable to speak to the media now so they can release the news about the firing, and then Dable won't have to deal with it until he speaks to the media on Wednesday. I don't know. This is my speculation. I have nothing to confirm that. Just a little spidey sense, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's the way that things go. Now, as we know, we have heard from Malik Neighbors, who said last year that it's not a quarterback problem. He was outspoken about the fact that he felt like he should have been on the field earlier in games and should have been targeted, and that was a coaching decision. Asked the coaches why I wasn't out there. And then Malik Neighbors, during the game, posts this. Hold on. Okay. So the first tweet he has during the game is why we just don't kick field goals. Isn't that a great question, Malik? It's because our coaching staff, who brought in this kicker, decided that they don't trust him to kick field goals. Our kicker that's active on game day is not allowed to kick a field goal that's past 31 yards. Okay. Then the next tweet an hour later is the hand over the face palm emoji. And then the tweet towards the end of the game just says, bro, for those of you who are listening. So now you've got your star wide receiver. You've got your best defensive player, along with, I'm sure, quite a few others at this point, who are sitting there questioning the coaches. And I don't think that if you're John Mara, one of his things has always been, if you lose the locker room, there's no coming back from that. And I know that Burns was emotional after the game. He responded well in the media. You know, he did what he had to do. He is a true leader. I love everything about Brian Burns. I liked seeing the emotion from him because he deserves to show emotion. He's the best fucking player on this defense at this point. So, and I'm sorry about the F-bombs, guys. I don't know how to bleep them out. I'll try it when I go to edit this. I'll try and figure it out. But I can't stop it today. I am so sick of this goddamn team and the way that they give us hope and then they just rip it out from under our legs. So I feel like the fact that you have your best player on defense, you've already had a meeting with the coach at this point. I think all of that, in my opinion, lends to the fact that Bowen is losing the locker room. He's losing the defensive players. And I don't think you can come back from that. So if it is that bad and that's where it's heading, Bowen's not going to be here much longer. Now, something else that we have to talk about when it comes to that is they're going to promote someone within. Everyone is like, bring in Antonio Pierce, do this, do that. They're never going to do that in the middle of the season. They're going to promote someone within, and then next year they'll decide what to do about the GM and the head coach and the offensive coordinator if Bowen is already gone at that point. And then they will bring in actual outside candidates for DC. They're not doing that in the middle of the season. So my assumption is that Dre Patterson would get promoted if they fire Bowen midseason. He's the defensive line coach. Dexter Lawrence loves him, raves about him. And he's done a great job and he's loved in the locker room. So I think he's been here the longest. So I think that he would be next. But the other thing I want to say is, you know, and we're going to get into the positives because there are some. Is that, you know, the people who are like, we knew this season was going to suck anyway. Who cares? Who cares? What do you mean, who cares? We went 0-3, okay? And we went from being, the season is over, this and that. I want you to look around the NFL and how there are upsets every single week. When we went 0-3 and we turned to Jackson Dart, the thinking is we're probably going to lose to the Chargers, but let's see what Dart can get. This year is about Dart's development. And then they go out there and they beat the Chargers. And then they go out there and they beat the Eagles. And you're thinking, how could you not have optimism that maybe this team is better than what we thought it was going to be? And all I hear from everyone who is a Dart defender and let Dable have his guy is the quarterback changes things. The quarterback does everything. Guess what, guys? No, he doesn't, because Jackson Dart did almost everything right in 3 out of the last 4 games. And guess what? We still went 2-2 because you have to play complementary football to win games. And if you want to talk about the rookie quarterback thing, no one has any expectations. Look at Washington. You think they had any expectations when they started a rookie quarterback last year? No. And they went to the NFC conference. So things change on a week-to-week basis. And you have to be ready to go with the flow. I didn't think Dart was going to be that good. I've said that numerous times. I'm very impressed with the way that he's improved. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I think he's done a hell of a lot better than I expected. I think he's improving damn well. He obviously brings a lot to this football team. We're putting up more points now than we have in the last 3 years. So obviously he's doing a lot of things right, but he can't make up for a defense who gives up 33 points in 1 quarter. He did everything right. So with that said, let's talk about the positives. Like I said, almost everything right. The interception was horrible, okay? You cannot do that. You cannot make a mistake like that. But he didn't have a meltdown afterwards. He didn't absolutely lose his shit. And instead, he made some big-time plays that helped the Giants move the ball down the field and score what should have been a game-winning touchdown. The game should have ended there. And then we'd all be talking about how Dart made up for the interception, how the interception didn't cost us the game, and how, obviously the defense had their struggles, and that's a problem, but they were able to overcome them because they got to stop when it mattered, or because our coaching staff knew to tell Dart, let's, slow it down here and not go for the touchdown on 1st and goal because we have to run down the clock because they have no timeouts left. Like this, there's strategy to this game. We've seen them do it in the past. Remember when Saquon Barkley did that for the Giants a couple years ago? Slid inbounds to run down the clock before the first down marker? It happens every week. Players play smart football. And you've got a rookie quarterback. So that's on the coach to say to him, hey, we got to run down the clock. There was none of that. So anyway, the thing is that the interception was bad, okay? But ultimately, Jackson Dart threw 3 touchdowns. He threw for almost 300 yards, which is more than he's done in all 4 games that he's played so far. That was the most. That was also, the Giants put up the most amount of points on offense against this Denver's defense all season. You put up 32 points against the Broncos, you're supposed to win that game. Just like when you put up 37 points against the Cowboys, you're supposed to win that game. It is unacceptable that they lost, and it falls on the defense. Because when Jackson Dart gave up that interception, like I said, he was able to move the ball right back. He made smart decisions with the ball, and he did all of this without Malik Neighbors. They put Bo Collins and Jalen Hyatt on the field, for fuck's sake, and they still put up 32 points. They had the luckiest of all lucky plays go their way when Wan'Dale Robinson tips the ball and Theo Johnson makes an incredible play and runs it in for a touchdown. Tyrone Tracy with a beautiful 31-yard run. They ran for over 100 yards, which is more than, again, almost any other team has done against this Denver defense. They've been holding teams to under 100 yards rushing. That was one of my biggest concerns going into the game. If we can't run the ball, we're never winning this. And we did. We ran the damn ball. Put up over 250 points, passing 32 points. You're supposed to win that game. Your offense did everything right. Andrew Thomas and Illuminor were unbelievable against Nick Benito, against a team that had 30 sacks going into this game. 30 sacks. We had Austin Schlottman in there at center. I watched John Runyon make an insane block on the scat touchdown. Like, our offensive line was amazing. They shut down Nick Benito. You guys, he didn't have a single sack. You want to know his stats for the game? I'll tell you. Nick Benito had 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, and 1 quarterback hit. Nick fucking Benito, who all I heard about week in and week out is he's better than Brian Burns. He's the best pass rusher in the NFL. Guess what? After this week, he's not. Brian Burns is number 1 in the NFL. Number 1. With 23 tackles, 11 assists. 23 solo tackles, 11 assists, 34 total, 12 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 1 forced fumble. You know who doesn't have a forced fumble? Nick Benito. You know who doesn't have 9 sacks? Nick Benito. And Burns, another 2 sacks. Dane Belton makes a huge stop on 3rd down. The Giants went 2 for 2 on 4th down on offense. The Broncos went 1 for 2. Brian Burns, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection, 2 quarterback hits. Cordell Flott had the game of his life. Unbelievable. 2 passes, defense, or 2 of those. Roy Robertson-Harris came up with a huge one. Also had 2 quarterback hits. Victor Dimukeje, first game back, has a huge PD. Dexter Lawrence finally has a quarterback hit. Also had a PD. Darius Alexander with another PD. Nacho. Abdul Carter should have had a sack if they don't get the penalty there. For the first 3 quarters, and again, first 3.5 quarters, because with 5 minutes left, they were still up 26-8. This team played damn good football. They are a good football team. And this is what infuriates me, is that they're good. They have talent. And then they lose Paulson Adebo, and Shane Bowen doesn't trust Tay Banks. Get him off the goddamn team. No one trusts Tay Banks. Helen Keller doesn't trust him. But you keep him on the roster, and that's who you're going to put in there, and you're going to keep him in there play after play after play when he makes mistake after mistake. What? Why? Why? No one gives a shit about optics. No one cares. You've got Evan Neal inactive for 7 straight weeks. Do the same with Deontay Banks. I don't give a flying fuck that you traded up for him in the first round. You picked Evan Neal, 7th overall, and he's inactive for 7 straight weeks. We wouldn't care if you fired Shane Bowen after 1 year because he sucks. Stop it with the optics bullshit. It's ridiculous, and it's losing you football games. We are the laughingstock of the NFL. Do you know what every goddamn video I've seen today from the national media and from local media is? It's not talking about how the Broncos had an incredible comeback and scored 33 points in 1 quarter. No, it's talking about how the Giants blew it, how they absolutely collapsed in the most embarrassing fashion you've ever seen in your life. We are the laughingstock. It's not about the Broncos and Sean Payton being a good football team, because Bo Nix played like ass for 3 quarters. And we took advantage of that, which is what we should do. It is so infuriating. So now we're 2-5. We don't know what's happening with Adebo or Holland. And we take on the Eagles at home on Sunday with players who seem like they're pissed at their defensive coordinator, who he has no idea what the hell he's doing. We might be stuck with Deontay Banks again. And Jalen Carter is going to be back. And Quinion Mitchell is probably back too. And we don't have Malik Neighbors. And we elevated little Jordan Humphrey, and he had 2 targets. 2. So, okay. And still, we should have won the game. I can't talk about this anymore. It's enough. If you guys have made it this far, thank you so much. Like I said, there are things to be optimistic about. And if the field goals, if the extra points get kicked and they're made, and, the defense makes 1 stop on 4th down, or Dable tells Jackson Dart to don't go for the touchdown, like run it slow. We have 4 times to get it. We have to run down the clock, whatever. It's like, it's the missed opportunities. It should be the slogan for this team, because it's the same shit, different day. It's the same mistakes over and over again. And that's the common theme, is that they shoot themselves in the foot, and that's why they lose football games. And this is a talented team. They're not getting blown out week in and week out. If they're getting blown out, this is a different conversation. Then we can say, great, maybe Dart's not our guy, or, maybe everyone should be gone next year, and maybe we should be tanking, and we need a quarterback, and we need this, and we need that. But that's not the case. This team is playing damn well against good football teams. They redeemed themselves after the Saints, after an embarrassing loss. But they can't do it twice in a row. It's just very frustrating. So anyway, I'm going to be back on Wednesday because I need a break from this goddamn Giants team. And we're going to talk about around the league. We're going to talk about fantasy stuff, because maybe fantasy will save us this year. I don't know. But we'll get through that. And then Friday will be a game preview. And I'm actually previewing the game with an Eagles reporter, Simone with the Sports, on social media. So hopefully by then I'm calmed down, and I know we'll have a great conversation. It'll be fun, but hopefully we have good news on Paulson Adebo by then. And if there is any type of change made at defensive coordinator or whatever, I'll come on here and do an emergency pod, and we can talk all about it. And I'll also go live on social media if anything changes. So make sure you're following on Instagram, TikTok. It's at New York Giants Fan Girl. And you know what? I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their week. And, there's always next year, right? Thanks for listening, guys. Go Giants.